In the dark whispers of the night, beneath the blanket of stars, I decided to spend some time in the wilderness. The idea of secluded camping appealed to me, where I could enjoy peace, away from the noise of the city and the hustle and bustle of everyday life. Prepared for the journey, I packed my backpack with the essentials, bringing along a tent, a sleeping bag, and some provisions. My trusty car, an old Jeep, had always been my reliable companion in my adventures. I loved every creak and groan of its old doors, every dent on its body, every mile traveled in its saddle. This car was a part of me, embodying freedom and independence, especially when venturing into the wild. With my belongings packed and my Jeep ready for adventure, I set off, relishing the freedom of the road offered by my faithful vehicle. There was something special about my Jeep, something that made the journey even more exhilarating. Every turn, every road opened up new horizons, and I felt alive, free, and full of energy. The road to the campsite was peaceful, as the moon illuminated my path, and the stars mysteriously twinkled in the sky. I was filled with a sense of adventure, eagerly anticipating my encounter with nature in its wildest form. Finally, I reached the clearing surrounded by tall trees. Deep silence reigned around, pierced only by the rustle of leaves under a light breeze. At the edge of the clearing lay a small lake, reflecting the moonlight like a silver mirror. The sun had already set behind the horizon, leaving behind only a faint glow bathing the clearing. Setting up the tent and laying out the sleeping bag, I decided to rest under the starry sky. But before that, I decided to light a campfire to warm up and enjoy the cozy atmosphere of the fire. Gathering dry twigs and branches, I skillfully arranged them on the ground, then pulled out a lighter and carefully ignited the fuel. The flames leaped up, illuminating the surrounding area and lending a mysterious and cozy atmosphere. After the campfire was ablaze, I took out some provisions from my backpack and prepared a light snack. Sitting by the fire, I savored the taste of hot tea and snacks against the backdrop of the whispering wind and crackling fire. My thoughts wandered far, forgetting all worries and problems, engulfed in the world of nature and the silence of the night. After finishing my snack and extinguishing the campfire, I felt fatigue creeping into my body. Deciding it was time to rest, I returned to the tent and settled into the sleeping bag. But despite the tiredness, a strange unease gripped me, hindering my ability to fall asleep. Eventually, I decided to step out of the tent for a walk, hoping the fresh night air would help me calm down. Carefully crawling out of the warm shelter of the tent, I felt the chilling touch of the night wind. The stars sparkled in the sky like diamonds, and the air was filled with the scent of trees and grass. At first glance, everything seemed peaceful and serene, but something inside me whispered that I was not alone here, that something unknown lurked in the darkness. Sitting by the tent, I enjoyed the silence and tranquility of the night, sipping beer and contemplating life. But suddenly something made me look up. There, among the dark tree trunks, I spotted something strange. Something tall and dark was moving slowly among the trees, twisting and disappearing into the darkness. My heart raced faster, and I instinctively pressed myself against the tent, clutching the beer bottle in my trembling hand. There, in the darkness, I felt a strange presence, causing the hairs on my arms to stand on end. And then I heard them. The sounds that made my heart freeze in terror. They were unusual, distorted sirens, their wail resembling a mix of human screams and the piercing howl of a wolf. This sound pierced through the night, as if invisible hands had seized me by the throat and pulled me into the darkness. It shattered the silence and filled the air with an atmosphere of senseless horror, making my blood run cold and my bones shake with despair. Each sound of the siren pierced my soul, reminding me of the silent threat lurking in the darkness, and making me realize that I was not alone in this nightmare. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to tear my gaze away from that dark silhouette, which was slowly approaching my tent. With each step, the sound of its wailing became more piercing, like a deafening melody of death. My heart beat faster, and my breath became rapid and shallow. I knew I needed to act. With sheer willpower, I stood up and, without hesitation, lunged into the tent, clutching the beer bottle like a weapon in my hands. I leaped inside and zipped up the flap, but the sounds of the sirens continued to escalate, filling the air with horror and despair. There, in the darkness of the tent, I heard its approach. It was getting closer and closer, like a shadow of a nightmare, ready to engulf me entirely. I could feel its presence, its ominous energy, causing my internal organs to vibrate with fear. The sounds of the sirens became unbearable, and I felt a wave of internal panic engulf me. Grabbing my pocket knife, I resolutely burst out of the tent, my actions driven by survival instinct. In the darkness, I could see it in all its glory. It was a huge creature, about 12 meters tall, resembling a pillar, its elongated limbs moving in sync with its steps, like something out of a nightmare. At its top were two sirens of different sizes, their howling sound tearing through the night air, and in these sirens, I saw the creature's horrible predator teeth, their gleam reflected in its eyes, as if they were directed straight at me. It remained far enough away for me to start running towards my car without obstacles. Fear compelled me to act, and I raced towards my only chance of salvation. Jumping into the car, I started the engine, my hands shaking with fear and tension. My car hesitated, as if sensing my anxiety, but finally, it decided to wake up. I tore off, starting the motion with a powerful jerk. The creature did not relent. Its horrifying sirens relentlessly pursued me. I drove onto the highway, but it only momentarily interrupted its pursuit. The siren head was persistent. It continued to chase me along the winding road. Moments later, I realized that my pursuit had only just begun. Every turn, every obstacle on the road only fueled its thirst for my fear. I accelerated, but the creature did not fall behind. Its sirens tore through the night, as if the lamentations of hell. My eyes darted to the rear-view mirrors and I saw it. The shadow, filled with nightmares, emerged from around the bend, persistently pursuing me on its shapeless body. I heard its cries cutting through the night air, filling it with horror and despair. My hands trembled on the wheel, and my heart pounded so hard that I felt like it would burst into pieces. I could not let this creature catch me. I was driven by the instinct for survival, and I was not going to give up. My eyes stared at the dark horizon, and my hope began to shine triumphantly when headlights appeared in the distance. It felt like salvation was already close, that civilization and safety were nearby. My car clumsily rushed forward, like a huge beast striving for its freedom. But the dark shadows of Sirenhead continued to chase me like ghosts in the night, reminding me of its relentless presence. As the headlights drew closer, I felt relief, but it lasted only a moment. Suddenly, the creature approached my car at lightning speed. With one powerful blow, Sirenhead shattered the rear window, leaving a huge dent in the metal, which bent under the force of its blow. Shock and horror froze me in place as the huge shadow slid over my car, like a bird of prey ready to strike decisively. Through this momentary horror, I managed to gather my strength and continue driving. My car surged forward, as if escaping from a predator, but its dark eyes still watched me, ready to attack at any moment. The sounds of the sirens faded, but their agonizing echo continued to ring in my head, reminding me of the closeness of danger. As minutes turned into eternity, and I continued to fight for my life on this dark road, suddenly oncoming cars began to appear. I sighed with relief, seeing them as a possibility of salvation. For a moment it seemed that safety was close, that the dark nightmare would stay behind. And it turned out that way. The unknown threat disappeared into the darkness of the forest, and I breathed a sigh of relief, realizing that I had managed to avoid deadly danger. Arriving home, I realized that this night would leave traces in my soul for a long time. Every rustle of leaves, every wail of sirens would remind me of this nightmare. Again and again, I would return to those moments when fear paralyzed me, when I felt that my life was in danger. The consequences of this event manifested themselves in my dreams. Every night, I woke up in a cold sweat, seeing terrifying images of Sirenhead, its distorted face and piercing screams. Sleep became restless, and I felt how nightmares engulfed me, like a shadow, not allowing me to find peace. Several days have passed, but last night I heard those sounds again. Today the sounds of sirens have become clearer and closer. They echoed in the distance, but their echo filled my room, making my heart stop with fear. But I knew it couldn't be just a coincidence. It's the creature, it's Sirenhead, and it's looking for me to finish what it started.